Hey there, as we're getting to start the new year, I know everybody's mind goes to how can I organize things better? How can I clear things out? And really, organization is one of those things that I like to play around with. So I thought I would share some of the different containers and tips that I have that I use in the studio. So first of all, when I'm storing things or trying to organize things, I try to look around my house or in the barn, in my husband's work shed, and see what I can find that will be useful and beautiful and add some texture to my studio. So some of the things that I've got here on my table, an old basket that I picked up at the Goodwill store that I keep scraps of fabric and papers in, just small bits and pieces. So when I'm looking for something to do, add to a piece of art, I know I can always look in that basket and rifle around and find something. I also use old tackle boxes. When I was in college, I carried a tackle box with all of my art supplies in it, and I still love those today. This is an old vintage one that I found on Etsy, and it works really well to keep all my little tubes and palettes of watercolor paints in it. I love to use little glass jars that I've just kind of saved from here and there. I have an old garlic jar that keeps my mineral spirits, and I'll save olive jars and anything pretty to use liquids to store in. Back here I have a vintage fruit basket that I found going through my husband's father's things, and it actually has Bergman Orchards on it, which Bergman is our last name. So when I saw that, I thought I will put that to good use in the studio. And I've used some old terracotta pots to kind of organize a lot of my artist brushes and tools that I use when I'm making art. Back here I have a 3-story caddy that I picked up, I believe, at Home Goods one time. It's great for keeping fruit on the table, but I keep it in my studio to store all of my acrylic paints that I like to use and all the different mediums and gels that I keep on hand. So I just put things to use in different ways than they're probably intended, but to me they're pretty, and it keeps things kind of neat and organized for me so that things are easy to find. Now over here I have a metal tray that I found at a vintage sale, and I filled that with all of my heavy-bodied acrylic paints. And then with it I have a container that my daughter made in ceramics class in college that I keep a lot of brushes and palette knives in, because I use those at the same time a lot of time when I'm using my heavy-bodied paints. So it just kind of keeps things together for me that I know I'll be using at the same time. Now over here I have 3 different tool caddies, and you can usually find these somewhere like IKEA. I know Michael's carries them. They're pretty easy to find these days, and they're great for organizing larger amounts of bottles of paint. I keep my spray paints in them, and then I have these little containers hanging off the sides that keep smaller tools together for me. I have one holding all my different sandpaper, holding different tools like scrapers and cutting knives and openers and spatulas and different trowels and things that I like to keep on hand. So it keeps everything in its place that I can just go right to it very easily. I use buckets and cups, little galvanized buckets that are really for decorating or gift giving, and I use those to separate all my different types of tools. So like I have a plastic cup there with all my stir sticks, a little bucket that contains a lot of my different brushes and chip brushes, another one that has my tools like screwdrivers and scrapers and scissors all separated out. So it's just easy for me to go right to where I want, and I don't have to do a lot of digging. And over here on this cart, which I call my art cart, this was a vintage cart that was my mother-in-law's, and after we emptied out their house, after they passed away, I've put it to use out in the studio because I love having it here for the memories that it holds for me, being in her kitchen for years and years. And now I put it to use holding all of my different fine arts supplies. So on the top shelf I have boxes, wood boxes, and wood plates that have, oil pastels and inks and markers and regular pastels. I have planters in the back that hold a lot of specialty brushes, and then mark making tools that I've collected that are really natural materials. And I just like to have those close by when I'm working out here on pieces of art, so I can just grab things very easily. On the bottom couple of shelves, I have other wooden plates with scraps of fabrics, ribbons, old tea bags, papers, vintage fabrics, just a little bit of everything. But because they're all separated and in separate boxes, it makes it easier for me to just go right to what I want and find things pretty quickly. Now over here on my work table, where I usually work when I'm doing fine arts, I have a ceramic plate that my daughter also made, and I snatched that to keep some tools that I like to have right on my table when I'm working. So I have some Stabilo pens, scissors, sponges, markers, brushes, old credit cards that I use for trowels, mark making tools. So it's just a little bit of everything, but I keep it in this pretty ceramic plate that she made, which is special to me because it, just another one of those little memory things that, and I know she made it, so it just makes it special in my space. So hopefully some of those containers and tips that I've shared with you will be helpful in you organizing your studio as we go into 2022. And, if you have any questions, just shoot me a DM and I'll try to help answer it. So good luck in 2022 getting everything organized.